So it happened, Apple finally introduced their mixed reality headset, and I thought I would take a liberty to do a little bit of a technical analysis for it for you guys, as a graphics programmer for Apple devices. The first thing I thought about was screen, and they said it will have 23 million pixels combined for both eyes. I did some math and it seems like the resolution will fall somewhere between 4K and 5K, actually closer to 5K. And another thing I liked, they said they will use micro OLED, which is cool because OLED has richer colors, deeper blacks compared to LCD. And on top of that, they will use the new generation of Retina technology where each pixel will have a 64 subpixels, and to put this into perspective, original Retina only has 4 subpixels per pixel, so Vision Pro will have 16 times more than that, which is some mind-blowing quality. But the quality alone won't take you far if you can provide a decent refresh rate for the content, and I think given the headset ambition they will probably want something like 120 Hz, and it means that you have to render 23 millions of pixels 120 times per second, and this is just an overwhelming amount of work for the GPU, which will run on this M2 chip it seems. And I thought about it, and it seems like they are going to have to use some sort of upscaling technology, and they actually have one. Last year they introduced this Metal FX, and it is similar to what Nvidia and AMD and Intel are doing. It's just that it's a question of, does their upscaling tech uses AI upscaling, or do they take AMD path? I think they probably use AI because it seems to be giving more promising results. But we will see how it performs when the headset is out. Another thing I thought about in terms of performance is how they have two chips, one M2 and another is this new R1 chip that is supposed to handle the big data coming from the sensors. And I thought, why not just have the second M2, but it seems like R1 chip must be better optimized for processing big data, and it is nice to see such an optimization. The next thing I wanted to talk about is this ecosystem of development tools that Apple is building for Vision Pro. Unsurprisingly, Apple makes Swift the main language for building the applications for the headset. It all starts with Swift UI, which allows you to create containers for your application to run in, and traditionally we had a window as a container for apps on iOS and macOS, but in Vision Pro they also adding two new containers. One of them is volumes, which I kind of don't understand, because it seems like this box where your application can run in, so this means that compared to window, the 3D content is not going to be projected on a 2D plane, but rather it will run inside some sort of a 3D volume, and I don't know what is the use case for that. Is it going to be something like 3D glasses for movies where the content that you are looking at seems to have a little bit more depth than normal? I personally hardly could tell the difference. And the other use case potentially could be that when wearing the headset, maybe you can walk around the application that is running in this box and take a look at the content inside of it at a different angles. And again, I don't know what's going to be the use case for that, so we will see. And then the last type of container is the spaces, and this is essentially a full screen mode for the application on Vision Pro. When the app is running in a window or a volume, in addition to the content of the app itself, you should also be able to see your surroundings and maybe interact with it if you want to. Whereas in space, when your application runs in that mode, then all you can see is the content of your application and nothing else. And this is of course great for immersion, but I was thinking that maybe it will impact performance, because I thought of this potential optimization technique that Apple might be using when, let's say, the app runs in window or volume, then it means that only a portion of the display will correspond to the content of this app, and so you need to refresh only those pixels at a high rate, let's say maybe 120 Hz, to give the desired user experience, whereas surroundings are going to be much more static relative to the app itself, and so maybe you can get away by rendering the surroundings at a lower refresh rate, and maybe that will help you squeeze a little bit more out of the hardware. Whereas if the app is running inside of space, then you don't get to use this hack and you will have to use the highest frame rate possible to deliver deliver the best user experience possible, and that might limit the capabilities that app developers will have for developing their apps. When it comes to other developer tools, I thought it would be good to put them all on screen together so we can think about how they all interact with each other. So Swift UI we already discussed. It allows you to create the app containers, and then in addition to that you got ARKit, Reality Kit and Reality Composer Pro. Reality Composer Pro here seems to be the Apple's exclusive app for designing 3D assets for the headset, kind of like a Blender or Maya. And what I kind of like about it is that they will probably tightly integrate it with Xcode, so that maybe you will not have to do this boilerplate work of importing, exporting the assets. Maybe it will have just one button in Xcode where you click that and everything just gets imported automatically for you, but we'll see how it goes. And Reality Kit is the rendering engine. It's probably a higher level APIs compared to, let's say, if you use Metal, but I'm sure it's built on top of Metal internally. And then you got this ARKit, which is essentially an interface to R1 chip, which should give you this set of APIs for accessing the data from your surroundings. I can think of two types of data that you might want to access there. First is the coordinates of real objects relative to you, so that you can implement something like drawing a imaginary 3D ball that will bounce off a real wall in your room or something like that. And another type of data is user input, because you got voice, you got finger gestures, you got eye movement, and all of that have to come from sensors and be processed by R1. So these are the tools that Apple is making for developers so that they can create apps for the headset. But there is one more thing, and that is Unity. Apple seemed to be really worried about mass adoption of the headset. That is why they are working together with Unity developers to integrate the rendering pipelines for the Vision Pro into the Unity workflow, so that people who are familiar with Unity can friction-free create the applications for the headset and maybe even port their own existing apps there as well. If you're interested in building apps for the headset, this is the right place. We will be definitely looking at this ecosystem of tools that Apple created and trying them out. And the good news is that Apple promised that visionOS SDK is going to be released this month. And even though headset is not there, they said there will be the simulator for the headset that we can try, and we will definitely be doing that on this channel. So make sure to subscribe to not miss that content. And that's all from me for now. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, bye.